Hi guys, welcome back to the Big Sew Along. I am Ginny, and today I have a kind of a smaller sew along for you, and it's something new that we've never done before here on the Big Sew Along. We're sewing a bag. This is also a free pattern, so I'll get to all of that in a second. But before I get there, let me explain to you why we're doing a bag. A couple of weeks ago, I had a new bed delivered, which means that I had to get rid of my old bed, and in doing so I had to clear out all the stuff that was hidden under my bed, and there was a lot. And as I was cleaning all of that out, I mean, it was all clothes, like, and literally, I'm gonna say like almost every single piece was something that I've made. And as I was going through that, I was like sorting out things that I still wanted to keep and things I didn't still want to keep and whatever. And I realized that in the last year, I've literally sewn at least one garment a week, every single week, with the exception of maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. So anyways, it's a lot. And as I was going through all of it, I realized that I just don't have a very wearable wardrobe, even though I love all the things that I made, and I don't have an issue with any of the patterns really that I picked. What I have a problem with is that none of my fabrics go together, because I am a fabric magpie like many other people, and I end up buying whatever fabric I love regardless of whether or not it's something I will A, wear, or B, have something to wear with, or C, have any place to wear it. So that's the issue I'm having right now. One of the things that I have in my stash was a piece of nylon taffeta in a black and white check. And I had probably 3 yards of it. And again, I bought it because I loved it. I loved the crispness of it. I loved the black and white graphicness of it. Unfortunately, being 100% nylon, there's absolutely no way I could possibly wear something out of that. It's just way too hot. Even if it was a sleeveless thing, if it was like something like I had on today, I just would never wear something made out of that fabric, because as much as I loved it, it is just way too hot. So I used it to make a bag. And meanwhile, I'm still working on like putting my stash away from the little minor like flooding I had in my house like a few months ago. As I do that, I'm trying to weed out things that I just will never wear. That I just fabrics that I won't ever use. Color, print, weight, whatever. For whatever reason, if it's something I won't wear, I'm trying to weed it out and figure out if there's something else I can do with it. And then hopefully I will be left with a selection of things that actually kind of goes together. And if they don't go together, then I'm happy to buy things that will go with them, as long as they're all things that I'll actually wear. Yeah, happy to buy some more fabric. Okay, so this is a free downloadable PDF pattern from DIBY Club, which stands for Do It Better Yourself Club. I will obviously leave a link to this below. The pattern we're using is called the Weekender, and I'll put a picture of it up for you. It is a boho sling bag. Now, the original bag, I don't know if you can see it in this photograph, but the original bag has straps that tie together at the top. And I didn't want to do that. What I really wanted, my inspiration actually, was this picture from Caliana.com, and I'm going to put it up here for you. It is a big, like shoulder sling bag in black and white. There's more black. I think it's black with white polka dots on it. I can't really tell. But I did think that it was really similar to this bag. I love the shape. I love the black and white color. Yeah. So, I'll tell you, the only thing I really changed about this was the strap. So, I didn't want there to be a tie on the shoulder. I just wanted it to be like a regular bag, no tie. There was also an option in this bag for adding a magnetic strap. No, a magnetic snap. Although a magnetic strap wouldn't be a bad idea either. You'd never lose your bag. A magnetic snap. I did not use that. I have magnetic snaps. Gosh, having a hard time saying that today. I have magnetic snaps, but I felt like with this fabric they'd be a little bit too heavy and maybe like you'd feel them on the outside, and I don't like that. So anyways, here we go. Here's the tutorial, and we'll come back and talk about it when I'm done. This is another pattern piece that's pretty big, so I'm not going to be able to show you the whole thing, but this is a diagram. This is the main body, and this is the lining. And this is what the pattern piece looks like. It's a long, for the strap. This is the strap, and then this is where it ties, and that's the hangover at the end of the tie, right? So for mine, since I wanted it to close here, I measured this distance on another bag just to see what roughly the drop was, right? So this goes up one side and down the other side. So whatever the whole drop is, the whole length of your strap is, you want to divide it by 2, or you just want to measure from the top of the strap to the top of the bag and see what that distance is. And it can just be, it can be rough for right now. So this is the lining piece, but you're going to do this to both pieces. This is my strap, and you can see I took that measurement and I just cut my strap off right here, right where that measurement was. And then because this curves in right here where the tie is supposed to go, I just filled that in with paper. So it still continues at a slight angle inwards, but it really continues pretty much in a straight line. Now we're just going to cut all our pieces out. Okay, so this is our bag. This the sort of partially put together. This is the front center seam. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see them too well, but I've marked my notches on both sides with these pins. And we're just going to match up our pins like this at the top. And at the bottom. Create our pleat, so it'll look like that. And then we're just gonna press that pleat towards the, away from the center. Just press it flat like that. And we're gonna sew it across the top. We're just gonna baste it across both the top and the bottom to hold it in place. And then you're gonna do the same thing on this side. So our pleats, when they're done, are going to look like this. Do that way and that way, and we're just going to press them flat just like that. And here you can see I've gone ahead and sewn just the center front seam on my lining piece as well. And now we're going to do our pocket. I have interfaced my piece because this is just fashion fabric, but the way we're going to do this is we're just going to fold this in half, right sides together, and sew straight down just the side seams. Okay, so here we have our pocket piece. This is the top edge. All I did was sew the 2 side seams. I clipped my corners, pressed my seam allowances open, and folded it right sides out. And then I did a row of edge stitching right across the top, and this is the folded edge. The bottom edge here is open, and it's still a raw edge. And you will see there is a little notch here at the bottom, right here. So now we're going to take, this is our lining piece. This is the center front seam of our lining piece. And there should be a mark right about 2 inches up from the bottom and right at the center line. And this is your pocket placement mark. So for this is the bottom of our bag. We're going to take our pocket piece. We're going to place it right sides down. I know you can't tell on mine because they're the same, but right sides down. And we're going to place it, match this notch up with your pocket placement marking on your bag. And we're just going to pin it in right there. And then make sure you're getting this in a straight line. You might want to measure from the edge here to make sure it's the same all the way down. Then we're just going to sew this down in a straight line from here to here. And once we've done that, we're going to press this up like this. Again, make sure it's not going to lay flat because mine's just pinned, but make sure it's flat and even. And once you have that nice and even and flat, you're going to start at this edge, right where your stitching started up here, and you're going to stitch down this side, across the bottom, up this side, and again, make sure you just meet up with your stitching right there. And then you're just going to follow. It's going to be pretty easy on mine because the center line of my bag is pretty much this line between these two rows of checks. You're going to do one row of stitching straight down the center, and you can just follow your center seam line. If you need to lay a ruler down and chalk mark it, that's an easy way to do it too. Alright, so that's our pocket, or our pockets attached. Now the next thing is where things are going to change a little bit, because we're going to take our main pattern piece. I'm going to lay it this way in hopes that you can see it a little bit better. Yeah. Well, I guess that's going to have to be good enough. Okay, so this is our main pattern piece. These are the straps up this way. This is the bottom. Now, what we're supposed to do is lay these two right sides together, like this. And sew all the way around, starting over here at this edge, all the way up around the strap, back down this way, around the next strap, back down this way, and around here. However, since we're not using the tie straps, what we're going to do is we're going to start on this side, and we're going to sew right along here. Now we're going to sew this all the way up to the top here. When we get to the top, we're going to stop at our seam allowance. Like I said, I'm going to use a 5/8 inch seam allowance, so I'm going to stop right about here. And then at the same point on the other side, we're going to leave this end open. I'm going to start here, and we're going to stitch all the way around this big curve. And up this side, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to stop right here at our seam allowance, leaving our seam allowance open on this side and on this side, and then we're going to stitch down this side all the way to this end, and we're going to back tack there. Then we're going to clip our seams and press that. Okay, I just want to point something out here, you guys. I think that the whole thing is supposed to have 3/8 inch seam allowances, but I'm going to flip this over. This is the main fabric part, and this is where our pleat is. And our pleat is, I don't know if you can see this, this is where the edge of our pleat is on the front of our bag. And that edge of the pleat is, it's really 1/2 inch away from this edge. So if your seam allowance is only 3/8 of an inch, the edge of our pleat here at the top is not going to get caught in the seam. So I am going to use, just to be safe, I don't think it's going to make that much difference, so I'm going to use 5/8 inch seam allowances all the way around here, here, and the other side. Okay, so this is what we have so far. This is our lining piece, and on this side we have our main fabric. And now what we're going to do, this is our pleat right here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open this out like this. So again, I know you're not going to see this whole thing, but this is the bottom of the fashion fabric. These are our straps. We're just going to put these right in the middle so they're out of the way. This is the hem of the lining piece over here. So I'm going to turn this sideways, and I'm just going to put these two sides together. So again, this is my lining piece. That's the hem of my lining piece. This is a seam with our straps right there. And this is the hem of the main body. Now we have all our seams pressed open and ready to go. We are just going to sew this seam all the way along this edge. Just be sure when you do this that your seam line matches up exactly so that they lay nicely on the right side when we turn it right side out. Okay, now we're just going to sew this side seam from one end to the other with our 3/8 inch seam allowance back tack. We're going to press that open and then we're going to turn this right side out. Okay, so this is what our bag looks like so far. This is the lining side and this is the right side. With our big pleat in the front. Right here. And just remember, our straps are still loose. We have 2 raw edges that are straps. We'll get to those in a little bit. But right now we're going to make the base of our bag. And we're going to do that by starting with the lining piece. For the lining, I have my lining fabric that's going to face up at the bottom of my bag. I have a piece of, I'm just using a piece of felt. I mean, you can use, she gives you a few other suggestions in here, but I had felt, so I'm using felt. And then for my lightweight lining piece, which goes between all of this, I'm using my regular, the same fabric I use for my bag just because I had it. But you can use any lightweight fabric for this. We're going to pin these together. And then we're just going to base them together, all 3 layers, around the edge. And we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance for that. Okay, so next what we're going to do is attach our bottoms. This is my lining bottom. This is the one that has the felt inside. This is my lightweight lining and my regular lining piece. On mine it doesn't matter, but just so you know, the lightweight lining piece goes on the bottom. This right here, the one that's cut on the bias, is my fashion fabric. This is going on the outside. And I've interfaced that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our bag and we're going to open it back up. So it's like this. We're going to shove our straps in here. And this is my main bag. You can see where I messed up all my interfacing, but I think it's going to be fine. We have 2 notches on this, on the base. They're on the sides. Let's see if I can find mine. Right here. And right here. And then, because I interfaced this, I don't think I can really see my notches on the sides of my bag. So I'm just going to remark them. Gonna line up my center seams. That's one. Remember, our seam allowances are only 3/8 of an inch, so make your notches small. Okay, now we're gonna put this in here like this. We're gonna line this notch up with this notch. And this notch up with the other side. Our right sides are together, obviously. And now we're just going to go around and we're going to pin it the rest of the way in. It's a little tricky around the curves. You may need to clip your main body fabric to get this to lay in there nicely. Let's see, so far I think I'm doing okay. Now we're going to sew this all the way around with our 3/8 inch seam allowance, and we're just going to be sure that we're not getting any tucks or anything as we go, so go slow if you need to. Now we're going to do the same thing on the lining side. Okay, now that one's all pinned into. The only difference is we're sewing this one in with our 3/8 inch seam allowance also. However, you're going to want to leave an opening in this one. So just make a mark somehow so you know where to leave your opening. I'm actually going to just put a double pin here. This one is bright yellow. That way it'll hold my bag together, but I won't sew past these two things. So I'm going to leave mine open from here to here. Okay, so here we have our bag. Let's pull all of this through our hole in the lining. Okay. Now, to close up this hole, you can hand stitch it. Just stitch it down like that. You can also go to the sewing machine and so just like that. Fold the edges of both pieces under and just do a row of stitching close to that edge, making sure to catch the whole thing, obviously. Just like that. And then this just gets shoved into the main body of our bag. So now for these straps, what we're going to do is we have all these edges pressed under. Make sure you don't have them twisted. And we're going to put them right sides together. So like this. And we're going to pin them together. We're going to pull the lining piece back like this on both sides. I hope you guys can see that. So I'm going to pin this together, but this is just the outside piece of the fabric. It is not the lining piece. The lining piece on both sides I have pressed back. And we're just going to sew across here with our, remember on this I used a 5/8 inch seam allowance. Use whatever seam allowance you use, but that's where you want to sew it. And it should come pretty much right up to where your lining piece is laying back. Just be sure you're not catching that lining in there like I just did with my pin. Okay, just a couple of things before we go any further. Before you sew this seam, I recommend pinning this and then trying it on to make sure your straps are the length that you want, because I ended up shortening mine by 2 inches, which as you can see now means that my strap lines won't, my plaids are not going to meet up. One of the many perils of working with plaids and stripes. But anyway, what we want to do is trim this down pretty close. Like that. And then press it to one side. And when we do that, we're going to put the, so we're going to press this to one side. And then we're going to use this lining piece and push that in there also. So it's like this. And we have this raw edge. I'm going to need to fiddle with that a little bit with my iron. You may need to trim this lining piece down a little bit too to get it to lay flat. So then you have this raw edge laying like this, and all you're going to do is fold that under just like that and press it. So it's like that. And then you can either hand stitch that down, or you can do a stitch in the ditch right here in this seam. Just make sure it's nice and pressed so you can see that really well. Right through there. And again, just be sure if you're going to do it this way that you make sure you're catching the fabric on the back side right there. And like I said, I'm going to have to clip some of my fabric down because you can see where it's like sticking out and a little bulky there. That's just because it needs to be trimmed and pressed. Now after you do that, you're pretty much finished. I think I am going to top stitch mine all the way around this edge on the front and the back to keep my lining from popping out. It probably would have been smart to understitch that, but I don't know how far we would have gotten up here. So I'm just going to top stitch mine all the way around on both sides. And then we're finished. Okay, so a couple of things. I think, actually I know, this pattern has a seam in the center front and in the center back. Because I was using a plaid, that of course makes it a little trickier than if you're using a solid fabric or something like that, if you're using any kind of a print. So I was thinking about this naturally after I cut my fabric out. The pattern piece itself, the main pattern piece, is 21 inches wide. So even if you had a 45-inch fabric, you could technically lay that on the fold and just cut so that you have just one seam at the center back, which would be good if you're using some sort of a print or something where you wouldn't want to seam up the center front. It would also be super easy to eliminate the pleats in this bag, and if you measure it, the lining piece is exactly the same size as the main bag piece once it's pleated, so you could technically just use the lining piece and cut that for the outside and for the lining, and then you would just not have the pleat. I didn't do it in this one because, like I said in the tutorial, when I was making this, I just sort of estimated the length of the strap based on another bag I had, and I cut the pattern out that way, and then I ended up having to shorten the strap 2 inches, which messed up my pattern matching on the strap, but also means that because the strap gets narrower as it gets longer, it means mine was pretty wide at the shoulder. So next time I make this, I will make it with I will taper that in a little bit more so it's not quite that wide. Mine's probably about 4 inches wide at the top, 3.5 maybe. I think that's really about it, you guys. Like I said, I found this pattern from DIBY Club when I was looking around for a pattern for this bag, because I found the picture, I don't know where, I was looking at the Kalyana website, which is this website that I love. And I saw that bag and I was like, I totally want that bag. And when I started looking around, I found this bag. I had pinned this pattern on my Pinterest board at some point. So I went back and looked it up, and I thought this is pretty good for what I want. But while I was there, I was looking at some other things. She does have another free pattern for a t-shirt, and if you give me a second, I'll tell you what it is. So the pattern company, their website is actually called doitbetteryourself.club. Let's see. She has not a free pattern, but a really cute like sweatshirt I thought would be cool for the fall and winter. She has a lounge pant, a hoodie. She has really cool, something called the Billy Wearable Blanket, which I wouldn't make it in anything too thick, but I would definitely make that because it's super oversized and super cute. She has a lot of other patterns on here that I thought were really wearable. Yeah, a swimsuit, a couple of different t-shirt tops. I'm always looking for like t-shirt tops that I can wear that go with my overall log and look kind of style. So she has a couple of those. And the other free one she has is the Anything But Basic Women's Tee. I don't know if this is actually free or if it's just free right now. So anyways, check it out. And check out the rest of her stuff too, because like I said, she has some other really good patterns. She has something called the May Poncho Sweater, which I think I would love for the fall. And I think I might actually even have fabric for that. Oh, imagine that. Alright guys, I think that's it for me this week. Next week, I think we're going to do another first here on the Big Sew Along. I don't think we've really done this before. I'm going to try to do a bit of a plans video. And I'll tell you what I'm going to try to do. This is my idea anyway. I'm going to look around the web and find some of my favorite outfits from different designers. And I'm going to come up with a couple, and then I'm going to see if I can find some patterns that we can use to recreate those looks. Until then, don't forget to check the Big Sew Along Facebook page. I will link to this free pattern from Do It Better Yourself Club. And I will also put up some more detailed pictures of the bag that I made. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm usually like a day or two later getting that onto Facebook because I'm slow. Alright, now that's it. Until next Tuesday. No, that's still not it. If you enjoyed this rambling video, please hit like, hit subscribe, and most definitely come back and see me next Tuesday. Until then, happy sewing.